Hey guys, my name is Matsumo, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you'd like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for the day is, do you think that Siege should have cross-platform play with Xbox and PlayStation now that Fortnite has finally gotten Sony to enable the feature? Absolutely. I really gotta hand it to Fortnite for even getting Sony to go through with something like this, because I wasn't expecting them to enable cross-platform this console generation. Let's be completely honest, Sony really didn't need to enable cross-platform because they're winning this console generation by a long shot. I think I read somewhere they've sold basically twice as many PlayStation 4s compared to Xbox One. That is a substantial difference. I think they're all the way up to like 75 million compared to like 35 million for the Xbox. That's a really big difference. And so the reason why I was surprised by this news is that while it's great for PlayStation users, it's even better for Xbox. They've more than doubled, basically tripled their player base, and for a multiplayer video game, that's really important. And so if they're able to do that same thing for Rainbow Six Siege, I think that that would come with a lot of benefits. First of all, you would finally be able to play with your buddies on Xbox. Not everyone is able to buy a console every single generation. Not everyone is able to buy a certain video game for each system. Like if you have friends on Xbox and you want to play Siege with them, that means you're gonna have to buy a copy for that and also a copy for your PlayStation buddies. It gets a little absurd. Now you wouldn't have to worry about it, so that would be one benefit. Probably the best thing that would come out of this though is that by pulling their player bases together, this would significantly reduce queue times because there's just now more people queuing, but also this would hopefully improve the precision of matchmaking. If you're gold 4, if it's taken a while, it might start to look for platinum players or go down into silver, which is something that you really want. You want people that are around your same skill, gold 4. Well, if you now have a larger pool of players to choose from, that will hopefully allow that to be much more precise, and so you're just getting more consistent games. Now, as for cross-platform between PC and console, that's where I feel like it's really not all that necessary. Yes, it would have a lot of the same benefits that we just talked about, but a really big downside of it is that now you're pairing people who are using the precision of a mouse and keyboard against people who are using a controller, and I feel like those matchups wouldn't really be all that fair. Maybe they could have a workaround where if you have someone who is queuing cross platforms between PC and console, the console user is basically accepting that, yep, I fully understand that I'm now going to go against PC players, but if I'm just solo queuing as a PlayStation user, I don't think that all of a sudden I should be going against a 5 stack who's all using mouse and keyboard. Like, that just feels like it would lead to a lot of imbalances. All in all though, I think that this is a fantastic idea. I'm really hopeful that this isn't going to be just exclusive to Fortnite and that Sony is open to the idea to have this available for other multiplayer video games. It's great for consumers, it has lots of benefits that we just talked about, and I think it would be perfect for Rainbow Six Siege as long as it's possible. The next question comes from Tim, and it is, do you think that the kill cam should be removed from Siege? I feel like your team can be put at a disadvantage based off of what they see in the camera. So I realize there's a lot of pros and cons to having something like this in Rainbow Six Siege. Like you just mentioned, one of the downsides of it is that if you do get taken out and you watch the cam, you might glean some information that you normally would not have access to. I've had rounds that I've won because of the callouts that I made watching a cam. I get taken out, think it's just one player, and then I realize their entire team is being really aggressive from that one direction. I would not have had that information otherwise, and we were able to win the round because of that. The reason why I like this system though is, first of all, they added it because it was a way for them to stop the accusations. At the beginning of Siege, there was a lot of cheaters. There was a lot of problems with that at the very beginning, and a lot of them were false accusations. People just didn't understand how they were getting taken out, and rightfully so. This game is very, very complex, and if all of a sudden you get taken out seemingly out of nowhere and there's no way for you to know how you were taken out, you're probably going to accuse that guy of cheating. And so Ubisoft added in the cam so that people could actually watch what occurred, and that kind of stopped that issue. The other reason why I really like it is that it does allow you to figure out if someone is cheating. If they are suspicious and they're taking you out by snapping into your direction or they're tracking you through walls, it's going to be a lot more obvious because of this system. The main reason why I like it though and wouldn't want to see it gone is that I've learned way more more about this game based off of how the enemy took me out than what I've done all by myself. If they were able to drop me out of nowhere, like, how did they do that? What angle did they use? Oh wow, they opened up a small little hole on that angle. I would never have thought of that. I use it more as a learning tool. This game, if you have a proactive mentality and you learn based off of what your teammates do and what the enemy does, you're gonna be able to learn and improve a lot faster than you would otherwise. If you take that away, you can kind of guess how they did it, but it becomes much more difficult. Now, one compromise I have heard people bring up is, what if they just buff the suppressor? Right now, this attachment isn't used very often, but what if it had the added benefit where if you did take someone out, you no longer had a kill cam? This way, you can be a lot stealthier, which is exactly what this attachment is used for, but of course, you'd also have all the other negative drawbacks that are associated with it. That would maybe be a fair compromise. The one issue I have with this, though, is that this would probably be the tool for every hacker and cheater in the game to try to get around the problem that we just talked about. If there's no longer a kill cam and he's just able to take you out from seemingly out of nowhere, yeah, you might suspect that he's cheating, but now you have no way of really verifying it because of this attachment. That would be one downside. And so in general, while I realize there might be a fair amount of people out there that would like to see it being removed from the game, it's for these reasons why I think it's a good addition and actually is a benefit to Rainbow Six Siege. The next question comes from Matthias, and it is, what do you think of the idea of Ubisoft giving players the ability to toggle ranked maps on and off, and in that way, making their own playlist? This works really well in CSGO, and I'm having a hard time thinking of any cons to the system being implemented into Rainbow Six Siege as well. So I do understand where you're coming from. There are some maps in Rainbow Six Siege, and it differs from player to player, where you just don't enjoy the map's gameplay. For me right now, it's Theme Park. At first when it came out, I didn't mind it so much, but the more I play on it, maybe it's just because of the meta that's come up from it, I just don't find the gameplay on that map to be satisfying whatsoever. And so if I was able to turn that off, that would be a nice feature for me to have. If you're someone who wants to play on only 5 maps because you find them to be most enjoyable, well, that would be a nice tool for the player. The problem with this, though, and the reason why I would not expect this to happen for Rainbow Six Siege, is one of the issues with CSGO is that because they have this feature, certain maps are played constantly and other maps not so much. Everyone plays Dust 2. You know, that is basically the bread and butter of CSGO. It's constantly in the rotation, and if you want to get into a match quickly, you probably want to play on Dust 2. Now, of course, there are a couple other fan favorites here and there. Don't get me wrong, it's not just that map, but one of the things I love about Rainbow Six Siege is the variety of the game. Not in just the operators and how they change up the map and how you approach the objective, but also the maps themselves. If you're someone who really enjoys Theme Park, but everyone else turns it off, you're gonna have a hard time getting into a game or even finding a match for that map. I don't ever want it to get to the point where the community deems a couple of maps worthy and all the other ones fade away. I don't want that for Rainbow Six Siege. And so while I do understand where you're coming from, I get your frustration, not every map is my favorite too, but I just don't think that this is really all that necessary for Rainbow Six Siege for those very reasons. The next question is, do you think that Finca has become obsolete since the Recoil change and the nerf to her gadget duration? I feel like she has lost a lot of power she never had in the first place. Maybe I'm biased because I really just don't like Finca in Siege, but I think that she's in a decent place right now. The amount of benefits that she provides to all of her teammates when she activates her gadget is staggering, and I don't really know how else they'd be able to buff her in a meaningful way that doesn't just make her completely busted. A couple of patches ago, she got access to frag nades, which is arguably one of the best secondary gadgets that you can have on offense. Now, the downside of it is in that same patch, they also nerfed her gadget pretty substantially. It only lasts 10 seconds instead of 20 seconds. The thing is, though, is that before, it was pretty overpowered. Being able to activate that in the last minute of a game and giving everyone on your team the benefits that Finca boost provides was pretty incredible. There really was no thought when you were playing as her before. If it was the last 60 seconds of a match, you basically just had it up continuously with all the added benefits for your team. Now though, you have to think about it a little bit more. You have to understand where your teammates are, what they're gonna do. You have to communicate. Are you gonna push in? Okay, now I'll activate it. You only got 10 seconds, so you better make it count. Now, of course, you can still activate it more, but you do have to make that conscious decision, which wasn't really anything that you had to do with the previous Finca buff. And so all in all, I really don't think that Finca needs an upgrade. According to Ubisoft stats, she actually had the highest win rate out of every single operator by a country mile. It was incredible. Now, granted, after the recent nerf, it did go down, which is a step in the right direction, but it's still way higher than a lot of the other offensive operators in the game. And so long story short, I do not think that she needs an upgrade. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Give me your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video. Do you think that Finca needs a buff? Do you think that that's not necessary? Give me your thoughts down below in the comments. As always, if you'd like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.